a lot for joining and taking the time today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great to look through your podcasts and some of your Instagram accounts to see like what kind of interviews and things that you've been talking with people about. And I'm grateful that Dr. Hyder asked me to speak with you because I feel like there's a lot of alignment and things I'm excited to talk about.
Awesome. Me too.
Yes, the first thing I would like to ask about is your Keto In and Out program. And yeah, maybe your take on the sustainability of keto and the reason why you
Sure.
chose to frame it and approach it in this way.
Sure. Yeah. So the Keto In and Out program was my first step. And then I actually wrote a book about this whole concept. It's called Short Term Keto. And that book really finalizes Keto In and Out. I wrote that program in 2018. And then Short Term Keto came out in, when was it? The end of 2021. So after years of coaching clients on this and running people through programs and boot camps and all of this, Short Term Keto finalizes where I stand on this. And it's basically this, like I started out as I was one of the people really talking about keto in the beginning, like in 2017, 2018, I was fascinated by the ketogenic diet and the power that it had to do so many beneficial upgrades in the body in the beginning of 2018. After being a year of keto, strict keto, I trained for and ran the Boston Marathon in ketosis. I tried so many different approaches. I was coaching people on keto and I was just having this intuitive feeling like, it's time to bring some carbs back in. And so I just honored that because that's just how I am. And after doing that, it was like massive health upgrades, right? So I'm grateful that I did keto. There were some benefits for me, like eating more fat was really awesome. I could tell like just hormonally, mentally, emotionally, I felt I needed that boost in fat. I don't think that I personally needed to do keto for a full year. I was very lean. I had just qualified for the Boston Marathon, lifting weights, all of that. I came into the keto space from a pretty different angle. Most people come to lose body fat. I did not need to lose body fat. I was extremely lean, too lean almost. I was like 11% body fat, like super lean. So I actually did gain some body fat. I was okay with that on a ketogenic diet. So yes, you can gain body fat on keto. But I also was losing muscle mass, even no matter how much I optimize protein and supplementing leucine and just trying all these different varieties. I was still losing muscle mass. And I just knew for me, I was like, I just really do better with some carbohydrates, right? And so when I brought those back in, I dropped without even tracking food or anything, like my athletic performance shot up. I dropped down to like 12 point something body fat without even trying to. And I was like, whoa, this is freaking fascinating. And so I just had my mind open. I really started trying this approach with clients, helping them heal insulin resistance with keto, getting good blood sugar management, restoring hormonal balance. Not for everyone. For some people, especially women, like it could, if they stress themselves out too much with low calorie, not enough protein. Keto is a stressor on the body. It's like a healing upgrade, but if it's done in too much of an extreme for too long, it can be overly stressing on the body. But after years of practicing that and trying it with clients, I started to speak up on it. It was scary back then. Like in the keto world, I was very in the keto community. The mentality was keto is far superior. That's the world I found myself. This is the most superior. Ketones are the preferred fuel source for the brain, and it's anti-inflammatory. And if you eat carbs, the energy of them, and people weren't saying this, but the energy was like, you're like a suboptimal human. Like you're a sugar burner is what people would call them, right? Like you're dependent on carbohydrates and all this kind of, I don't know, a little bit derogatory. Like it was starting to get very dogmatic, just being real. And I was like, don't like that. Just started getting way more open-minded with approaches with my clients and eventually released that program and started running people through. And the synopsis is this: if you are insulin resistant, if you have high blood sugar, keto is going to make it a lot easier for you to lose body fat because you're not going to be going through these highs and lows of blood sugar that happen when you, like, if you wake up and your blood sugar is over 100, you're on your way to type 2 diabetes. It needs to be addressed. And if you're in that state, like when you eat carbs, you're going to get a blood sugar spike and then you're going to drop and you're going to have this need food now. Like you might even shake a little bit, feel hypoglycemic, like you get hangry. It's nothing matters. I can't even think about eating healthy. I just need fast sugar now. Like that energy will go away. And that's really hard for some people to realize. If you've been in that state, you're like, yeah, I could never live without sugar. I need it. I'm addicted to it. Nope. Once you start producing ketones and you have regulated blood sugar, that's like people's biggest wow moment, right? Like, yeah, this is me. This is crazy, right? And so you can do keto. It depends on the person, how long they need to do that. And that's what the book goes into, is like, how do you know? Right. And it's basically, we want to look for signs of regulated blood sugar. Some people do it for a drop of inflammation. Some people do it for a therapeutic interventions, which I won't touch on, but there's epilepsy and neurological diseases and some cancers. And there's a lot of therapeutic benefits of the ketogenic diet. Super anti-inflammatory, super, right? So there's all those things. And anytime you are doing an extreme, some things are getting upregulated, some things are getting downregulated. That's what happens in extreme. So first, let's say if you're obese, you have high blood sugar, you have a ton of inflammation, keto can be very healing for that. But if you keep doing it forever, I'm not saying you can't. Obviously, if you're doing it for epilepsy or something like that, you probably want to do it forever. And some people will feel better doing it long term. But what I like to ask people is, do you really feel better? Or have you gotten into a mindset? You've been doing this for 2, 3, 4 years. Have you gotten into a mindset that, one, if you eat carbs, you'll get fat again because maybe you lost a lot of weight? Have you gotten a mindset of carbs are bad and inflammatory and trying to kill me and all this stuff that you hear on social media and from a lot of powerhouses in the health community? It's just inviting people to ask, have you been a bit programmed? Is it true? Because there's a lot of people all over the world that eat carbohydrates and are very healthy. And so it's important to question these kind of like dogmatic thought processes and just be with yourself and how you're actually feeling. And in summary, it's like, for some people, especially if you're obese, type 2 diabetes, high blood sugar, tons of inflammation, something like that. Yeah, keto is a really smart approach for you. It's going to make it easier for you to lose weight because you're going to regulate your blood sugar. You're going to drop inflammation. You're going to get these ketones that give you brain power. You have more energy. Your dopamine goes up, all of these things. And then once you've lost the weight, like I see it all the time in the keto community now, there's going to become a point where you have to accept that you're in a different body now. Good for you. You did it. I was just talking to a keto influencer friend locally the other day, and she lost a lot of weight. I think 150 pounds doing keto. Now she does like bodybuilding competitive shows. And she's like, I can't believe how many carbs I can eat now. I'm like, yeah. She's like, a lot. I'm like, yeah, because you're in a different body now. It has different needs. So that my little tagline in the keto space is, do keto, not forever. That's
Yeah,
how I
I
feel
saw
about
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And it makes a lot of sense, actually. The last couple of months of doing coaching, I have a couple of people who've been doing keto or even carnivore actually for around a year. And initially they experienced all these benefits and a lot of inflammatory markers went down. They got out of the pre-diabetic range. They were super happy. And then after a year or so, they started to see a regression in the blood markers and even in the diabetes markers. They didn't do so well on the insulin testing. And it was really interesting to see that and just notice that there's a point at which it plateaus and then it stops working, and then it can even have the opposite effect.
I just want to add what you're saying. I really want to highlight this for people. Like, that is professionalism. That's why I always recommend working with someone who works with people one-on-one versus just taking like dogmatic theoretical information from social media of carbs are bad, carbs are going to kill you. It will do this, blah, blah, blah. Take your advice from someone like you and me who are like willing to be open of, yeah, it was good for a time and then it got not so good. Like, that is so needed. So I just want to highlight that was awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it's necessary. And there's a lot of different reasons for it. I think in the case of this client, he was doing a lot of intermittent fasting, but his fasting window was basically at night and he was just eating at night. And I just said to him, the best time, even though it's not especially sociable, it's good to do your fasting, have your breakfast and then stop eating earlier in the day. And that's a better fasting window to do than starting eating at 5 p.m., for example. That's not the best, because then you're having this really heavy meal before bed and you're eating into the night. And there's a lot of interesting work done on the microbiome, and they actually have their own circadian rhythms. And we have to, in a way, adhere to those circadian rhythms of the microbes that live inside us. It's not just about overriding it with this dogma. Yeah, it was interesting for him to notice this, but it was similar to what you said when I suggested this idea of maybe stopping. He was so resistant to it. And the main reason was just that it was so much effort to do this, that the idea of stopping doing it somehow mitigated or would revoke some of that effort that he previously put in. which is interesting because we just have this idea that when we try so much to reach something, then we need to hold on to it, because if
I
not,
know.
otherwise it wasn't worth it.
And do it
uh,
more and harder when it stops being as effective and versus
yeah,
shifting. Yeah.
exactly. It's really hard to shift and just accept that
Hmm.
like this wasn't a failure, it worked, and you got
Yeah.
here and you made these improvements, but now your body is saying this doesn't work for me anymore.
And I like to always say the more work you've done like that, the easier it gets. And it's hard
Mm,
for people sometimes to accept that it can be easier now. Like that same girl I was talking to, I have hardly lifted upper body in the last couple months, and it's like getting so strong. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it amazing how it gets easier? And
mhm,
that's for me, coming from being overweight my entire life to getting super lean and strong. I can relate to that because I was like, no, it has to be hard, because it was really hard to get here.
mm,
And now I finally gotten to a place where I'm like, actually, once you build your body composition that way and you've learned the ropes of eating healthy, nutrient dense foods, it doesn't have to be so hard.
yeah.
And what you said about the intermittent fasting, eating at night, that's one of the biggest problems in the keto community. It is incredibly common. And sometimes I can be a little in your face, but I just like to say that is a pattern of obesity. That is not a health pattern to be not eating. A lot of obese people do that. They don't eat for a really
Mhm.
long period in the morning, and then it's all really nighttime heavy, and then rinse and repeat. And then they're like, oh, it's 1 o'clock and I haven't eaten. And it's just like, all goes into nighttime. That is not a health pattern. And everyone that I know in the health communities that actually has like a good body composition, they all say the same thing as you, is like, stop eating earlier
Mm,
versus eating intermittent fasting later in the day. So it's really important, if you're
mm.
going to do keto or intermittent fasting, don't fall into that pattern.
Yeah, and it's a hard one because it's much more convenient to skip
Hmm.
breakfast than it is to skip
Hmm.
later meals. What you said earlier actually reminded me of something that I think you said in one of your Instagram posts about when you first got into a certain type of training. It felt, oh, I'm not punishing myself enough. This doesn't feel like a proper workout because I'm not completely annihilated afterwards. And I think there's this kind of interesting idea in the health and wellness space that unless you feel like you're really suffering, you're not doing a good job and you're not doing it right. And I think this is interesting because once you actually reach the alignment with your body and the food that you
Hmm.
eat and the movement that you're doing, you don't have to constantly exert
Hmm.
discipline and willpower and force and no, my body's saying no, but I need to say yes. Like that
Right.
all goes away. And we just reach this really nice flow of, oh, I
Yes.
want to do this movement and I want to eat this really nutrient dense food. And I
Right.
don't want to eat this thing because I know it makes me feel bad. And yeah, I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about that idea.
Sure. Anytime you're changing patterns and habits, it's going to be difficult at first. So if right now, let's say you go to bed at 10 and you want to start going to bed at 7, or let's say you go to bed at 11 and you want to start going to bed at 8. Our brains are designed to take the path of least resistance so we don't gas out early and die. I love
Mhm.
analogy. So I always tell my clients, I'm like, if it wasn't difficult to change patterns, like, you would have to relearn how to walk every day. You would have to
Mhm.
relearn how to drive your car every single day. Like, it is beneficial for us that we get into these neural pathways of, oh yeah, this is how that works. And anytime you're changing the way you operate in your life, it's going to take repetition. It's going to take, I stayed up till 11 again. Oh, okay. I ate a whole bag of M&Ms at 3 o'clock again. It's okay. Yeah. Cause that's the habit. And so it is going to be difficult at first. It is going to be. Losing body fat is not easy. It is, your body doesn't want to do that. It's designed to keep body fat on us as a protective mechanism in case there is a famine. And so yeah, it's going to be real uncomfortable at first. If all of a sudden you have a new job, it's uncomfortable at first, right? Any type of change. But I always like to remind people that, like, once you get it, though, it's exactly what you're talking about. I see this, like, I have to go harder. I have to do more and do it harder to keep getting results. And it's not that way. Once you get into a place of, like you said, flow, I'm all about daily flow. Just figure out the flow that works for you. Make your workout time the same time every day. Follow a eating window that you follow every day. Have a bedtime that, like, you stick to. And then everything just starts to become ease. And that, in that space, you can become more intuitive. Right. So I always tell my clients, like, okay, let's say I have some big weight training lifting session for you on a Wednesday. Okay. I don't know if, like, you had some horrible family trauma Tuesday evening and you were up until 12 a.m. and you're starting your period. And I don't know that every single day. So I teach them, if you wake up and you feel completely drained and my eyes are almost crossed, I'm so tired. The old school mentality that I think you're referring to is no pain, no gain. I got to push myself. Like I'm going to get all these ego wins because you just got to buck up and just do it and force myself. That is completely suboptimal. That is the way to get the opposite of what you want. So honoring that, okay, I'm really tired and still moving. I personally exercise every day, but if I feel tired and under recovered, I just walk
Mm-hmm.
and come home. But I still keep that pattern of I wake up, I do my morning routine, I go work for an hour, I go to the gym because it just keeps that consistent daily flow. And I always want to move, even if it's just walking, I want to move every day, unless I'm like
Mm-hmm.
recovering from surgery or something crazy. That pattern, when you can get into a daily flow like you're talking about and honor if your body's tired, let yourself sleep or go to bed earlier. Just walk instead of lifting. Honor, be with your body. Okay, you're going to go eat now. Okay, tap in. Hey, body, what sounds, oh, what? A chicken salad? Okay, cool. Oh, chicken salad sounds gross. What? Oh, sweet potato and eggs? Okay, cool. Get that way with your body and finding joy in it. Let's say you had an arm workout plan. You're like, I don't feel like doing an arm workout. Okay, cool. Do a leg workout. Like giving yourself space to flow intuitively with your body, but keeping the basics of
Mm-hmm.
I wake up pretty much the same time every day. I do this, I work out that time. I call it like a flexible schedule, right? Yeah, I'm going to exercise in this window, but if I'm really tired and under recovered, I can just walk.
Mm-hmm.
If I got it, I can hit it. And then like I come home, okay, I shower, I eat. You don't have to eat the same thing every day, but having principles of, I want to make sure I get protein and fiber and nutrient dense foods. That it's just so much easier to live that way. But we live in this society where people are very outside of themselves. And it's like, how should I do it? I should do it like this. I have to prove to myself. It's just at odds with oneself force energy. And that just
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of resistance, suboptimal results,
Mm-hmm.
feeling completely disconnected from yourself. And it doesn't have to be like that. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
thoughts about
I think the external thing is something really
that.
important. It's externalizing your experience. And I
Hmm.
think it's quite difficult, actually, I find, even working in this sphere, because I think that a lot of this externalization of your desires or symptoms or needs is actually perpetrated by the fitness industry and the wellness
Totally.
industry, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like that's what sells. This is the panacea. You just got to
I
do
know.
this. You just got to follow me, and then everything's going to
Hmm.
be good.
Right.
And I
Exactly.
mean, I think just before I had the call with you, I had a discovery call with someone, and she's just saying this is a really common thing when you're dealing with a chronic condition like long COVID, like what Dr. Haida works
Hmm.
with, is people have seen so many practitioners and doctors and they're at their wits' end and they've had every test and they
Hmm.
come onto the call and they just say, do you have the answer for me? Because if not, then I can't work with you. And I always say, no one has the answer for
Right.
you. That's the thing.
Right.
And if someone tells you they have the answer and they know
Right.
exactly what's going to guarantee to fix you, then that's a lie, because
Exactly.
no one has that. It's just about this constant dialogue and this
Right.
intuitive process combined with these non-negotiables.
Exactly.
And this, it's just an exploration that you need to do. And I think that, yeah, I find it hard to figure out how to sell this idea to people, honestly, because it's just more, it's more effort initially, but then it's hard to explain that it's so much less effort later on. You just
Yeah.
need to put in this initial effort to find the connection with yourself. And then later on, you don't make any effort at all, rather than what feels like less effort, which is just getting something really prescriptive. But actually
Hmm.
sticking to something prescriptive in the long term is way, way more effort than this other option.
Exactly.
Um,
I like the owner of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. I interviewed him on my podcast once and he's been doing this for over a decade. He runs all these deep lab tests. He's very knowledgeable, right? And he was saying that when people say, "Can you help me?" he always says, "I don't know,
mm,
but I'm willing to try." And he's got a whole certification with thousands of people under him, but that's professionalism because it's I don't know. The body is incredibly complicated. there's a huge mental emotional piece. That's why I won't coach
Mm.
anybody unless they will do my mindset coaching, which I put asterisks around that because it's like soul healing. It's like you have gut issues. I don't want to just only run your stool test and give you probiotics and a food plan or
Mm.
whatever the approach is. Yeah, I can give you some bitters or some betaine HCl and some cool botanicals and all that. But if you're not going to address the mental, emotional stuff, you're just going to dig yourself back into that hole. So
Mhm.
I think we're on the same boat. It's like there's a bigger piece here where like my job as a coach is to turn you back inside yourself and help you become like a self healer with my expertise of
Mhm.
recommendations. But I always tell my clients, I'm like, I need your feedback. I don't know. We're not robots. So if I give
Mhm.
you like these calories and macros, I'm like, I don't, yeah, cool. We can run some metabolism tests and do some cool fractions and things that typically work for people, but we have to bring humanity back into coaching. It's, oh, okay. So you like maybe have a faster metabolism or slower metabolism, or you have gut issues. You're not digesting your food well, or you have adrenal issues. Okay. And you have really toxic marriage that you're in that causes you to drink
Mm.
alcohol at night because you're not doing your inner work. There's so much more to human health than just these, here's your meal plan, here's your workout plan, and here's my list of my favorite supplements that I generally recommend to people. We've got to
Mm.
come past this. And I know what you mean by the fitness industry, because when I get new clients, like I just had one recently, she almost wanted to get a refund because I didn't give her a very strict meal plan of 4 ounces of chicken and 2 cups of green vegetables. And I'm looking at that like, I was just very real with her. I'm like, listen, this is really low level coaching. I can give you this, sure, but it's
Mhm.
never going to work long term. When you're at your friend's daughter's baby shower 3 Thursdays from now and you haven't been home all day, do you really think you're going to eat 4 ounces of salmon? No. And do I really want you to carry the salmon with you from yesterday all day?
Yeah.
Because so you can be this like psychotic, obsessed person who can't just integrate at the party and just enjoy life. We've got to learn principles and how to
Mm.
manage life, not this super prescriptive, did you do what I say, ego coaching. We've got to evolve out of this. Sure, it can quote unquote work, but
Mm.
what is the end result? I always challenge the coaches out there. Let me see the after picture, like
Yeah.
3 years from now. How they doing? Just curious. They might be doing great. They may have learned some basics in that really strict, crazy time, but it's so important also to turn people back into themselves and learn how to navigate life and make choices that feel self-honoring. And oh, I see now. This is how it works. So yeah.
Mm.